We have all played Swords and Sandals as kids, trying to get as far ahead in the game as possible, giving us countless hours of fun and stress. Customization, weapons, stats, magic, and of course arena champions to fight, each more unique and different than the last. But have you wondered if there is a story in all of it? Over the years, the series has come to an assembled story in a larger world that spans over several games. Why did characters who died in the first or second game appear in the third, fifth or sixth game? The topic I will be addressing today is if all the champions from Swords and Sandals 2 died, and what happened to them after the events of Swords and Sandals 2. This is what I'll be talking about in this video. Although the answer may seem very straightforward by saying they all die, I assure you, it is not. Even though they all visually die in the game after their defeat, for lore's sake, a lot of them do survive their fights, either by healing through their injuries with magic, or in the cases of wealthy arena champions, they get resurrected. A meat merchant, as well as a musician, the charismatic John the Butcher is one of the most memorable champions we face in Swords and Sandals 2, being the first arena champion of the game. Oliver Joyce, the developer of the franchise, has said that the character holds a special place in his heart, as the real-life inspiration of John the Butcher is a guy who, just like the character, was a butcher at a meat shop who hired Oliver when he was a teenager, however ended up letting him go after a week as he was not cut out for the job. Oliver wanted to get back at the real-life John, so he made him as the first champion in his video game so he could be killed hundreds of thousands of times. However, he does not harbor such feelings towards him anymore. He survives his fight and goes on to become the new owner and overlord of the Doomtrek Island and its arenas, becoming extremely wealthy in the process. His next appearances in the universe are in Swords and Sandals 4 Tavern Quests, where he's a board game participant, though that game is not canon. After that, he appears in Swords and Sandals 5, where he buys the corpse of one of the slain arena champions, the now killed Minotaur Big Moo. This is the last we see of him. Since he was 60 at the time of Swords and Sandals 2, and Swords and Sandals 5 takes place 47 years later, it can be assumed that he's either dead at the time of the newest game, which is Swords and Sandals Immortals, or that he's extremely old. Keep in mind that in the Swords and Sandals universe, life longevity is longer, so it's not impossible that he's 107 years old. The evil ninja was in fact two people, a father and a daughter who were highly skilled assassins. They survived their fight in Swords and Sandals 2 and decided to use their stealth skills to steal. Years after the events of Swords and Sandals 2, the father and daughter were caught stealing from the wizard Sagan's tower in Archmagus. She managed to escape, however her father did not and was turned into a Sagan blob, forced to serve the wizard. The father appears in Swords and Sandals 3 as the evil ninja Redux, now a gelatinous creature. He's nothing like his past self. You could say his fate was worse than death, as his mind was still alert and aware, trapped in his body, unable to control himself, and instead obeyed the orders of the evil wizard. He was bought by the automatons to participate as an arena champion in the Gladiator Traders in Swords and Sandals 3. After his defeat at the hands of the Starbound Gladiator, the wizard's spell was broken and he transformed back into his human form, at which point his daughter jumped into the arena, grabbed him, and opened a portal through which they both escaped. They were never seen again, however, there were huge heists happening across the continent of Brander linked to both of them. The arrogant son of Stylonius was a clergish, fearsome brute that many Swords and Sandals fans likely remember as one of the toughest bosses in the early game, who has ended many a career in the sands and has forced many people to quit trying to complete the game. He fought to avenge his father, Stylonius of Southport, who died by tripping over his own ego into a spiked pit. The son of Stylonius died in his battle and was not resurrected due to his bad reputation. After his death, he was brought back as an undead warrior in Emperor Antares' army during the Crusades by the Emperor himself, where he served as one of the more powerful champions until the end of the war. His legacy lives on as his two sons appear in future Swords and Sandals games. To anybody who might be wondering what the difference is between being resurrected and being brought back as an undead warrior, being resurrected means going back to life as one was before his death, while being brought back as an undead warrior means you were a zombie fighting for your master without a will of your own. A charismatic, good-looking man of high intellect and prodigal skills with the sword, Marksman Dantus was a ruthless commander in the Legion of H. It is rumored that he was the mastermind behind its making, as the leader he chaosed didn't have the wits for that. Marksman Dantus was also known as one of the most prolific romantics across the kingdom. He survived his duel and later escaped Doomtrek while everyone was watching the fights. He would play a significant role in the Crusades, serving as general of Hikaeus' legions before being slain in battle by one of Antares' generals, Xanthar the Haunted. He was briefly brought back as an undead warrior under the Emperor's legions before they were defeated, and he was once again laid to rest. Sagan Z, also known as Wizard Sagan, was the sorcerer Bhaargle's best apprentice and star pupil. Due to his chronic gambling and cheating, he got kicked out of Bhaargle's Wizard Academy at Archmagius and ended up reluctantly fighting at Doomtrek for gold and to avoid the price on his head. Wizard Sagan, being the powerful sorcerer that he was, survived his fight in the Doomtrek arena and his corpse disappeared upon his defeat. His former teacher visited him and he showed pity by giving Sagan gold after Sagan promised he'll mend his ways. Sagan Z then joined the Iron Republic where he did brutal experiments on animals and human alike. While he was staying at the Iron Republic, that was the same time that the Crusader Wars happened, where he reluctantly took part in some of the battles. After the Iron Republic fell, he went back to the Wizard Academy at Archmagius, where he excelled as a magician prodigy. It was there that the evil ninja was caught stealing potions and turned into a gelatinous creature by Sagan Z. Years later, the daughter of the father took revenge on Sagan Z by assassinating him during his visit to Bhaargle's tower, and this is how his story ends. The Great Beast came through the constellation mirror 300 years ago along with other great beasts, but they all died out except him. He made his home in a cavern in Eldor Hut, and was eventually captured by Antares and transported to Doomtrek to fight as a gladiator. He was defeated and killed by the Nameless. Sometime after that, just before marching against King Lionel at Phaetor, Antares resurrected the Great Beast in hopes that the Minotaur would fight for him, for he knew how strong the mighty beast was. However, the Great Beast declined since the only thing he ever wanted was to fight other gladiators, so he continued fighting in the arena. The next time we see him is in Swords and Sandals 3 Gladiae Ultratus, where the Starbound Gladiator faces him in single combat and the Great Beast is defeated for the final time. The Pharaoh King was a charlatan who had convinced enough people that he's a god and had a code of his own. The Emperor, tired of this charade, had the Pharaoh King imprisoned and forced to fight for his life in the arena. This pretender would die on the arena sands, but his cultists resurrected him through necromancy magic. He is rumored to currently be residing in the Takash Desert, where his cultists are massing once again, and he continues to scam people. That's the last we've heard of him. Spheracles is a race of giants known as the Titans. They came through the constellation mirror hundreds of years ago, but gradually died out since they could not procreate on this strange planet. Once a year, he would fight in the arena to entertain the crowd. The injuries he sustained in his Swords and Sandals 2 fight were not enough to kill him, so he lived to fight another day. That day came when he was summoned by Baron Wolfgang to fight for the Free States of Braxis during the Crusades' all-out war. It was there that he was killed by the Emperor Antares' Colossus, the Dusk Harlequin. Gaiax was a Cycladian dim-witted shepherd who got tricked into participating in the gladiatorial games at Doomtrek, thinking it was a farmer's market. He was a formidable champion, but after the events of Swords and Sandals 2, where he lost his duel, he lost his eye in the process. When the Crusades War started, Bors the Mighty, leader of the faction Sons of the Frost, would find Gaiax's eye and bring it back to him, persuading him to join the Sons of the Frost in the process. He was their Colossus during the war and met his end at the hands of the Dusk Harlequin, the Emperor's Colossus. The Daughter of the Blades. One day she randomly appeared in the arena of Doomtrek and became a champion, claiming to be the best swordsman in all the land. She reigned as champion for several months until she finally lost to the Nameless due to being blinded by a glare from her own blade. She then traveled back to fight for her home in the Akashi Steppes against the Beast Force during the Crusades, and it is somewhere at that time when she had a daughter of her own, known as Keeper of the Blades, that was born and grew up during the Crusaders' War. It is not clear when she died, but by the time of Immortals, the Daughter of the Blades is dead and her legacy is continued by her own daughter, the Keeper of the Blades. Ultra Flavius was a former professional wrestler and musician who wanted further glory and fame from the crowd, so he started fighting in the arena, being charismatic and a fan favorite. Sadly, his overinflated ego and showmanship was not enough to make up for a lack of basic fighting techniques, and he was crushed in the sands. After that, he retired from the arena and started heavily drinking, but at some point he had a child named Yolanda who would go on to become a pro wrestling champion as well. Many believe that she's half Glamourzone because of her strength and size, and because her father had a love for large women. One of the greatest wizards to come out of Archmagius, Luminesca was banished from the Wizard Academy at a young age due to her willingness to put other students in jeopardy while performing dangerous spells. She started fighting in the arena to perfect her magic, and after she was defeated during the Swords and Sandals 2 events, she survived and went back to the Archmagius Academy. She also briefly appeared during the Crusaders' War, where she created a powerful potion for the Beast Lord Arglax in exchange for a wealthy sum. She became the head of the Wizard Academy in Sagan Z's place after his murder, second only to Bhaargle Yarg, also known as Bhaargle. Tutuki the Volcano was a charismatic giant from the Vawi Islands in the Ulveric Ocean. During his time in the arena, he fell in with the wrong crowd by getting into a lot of gambling debts. After his loss at the hands of the Nameless in Swords and Sandals 2, he survived and had a chance encounter with the Daughter of the Blades. He saw the error in his ways and turned his back on fighting. He then returned to the Value Islands where he lived out his days in peace. One of the most infamous champions from the Swords and Sandals 2 game, the slave driver was the dungeon master in the arenas serving under Emperor Antares after having sold out the previous owner of the island, Gaiax. The slave driver was a kind soul as a child, but he barely survived the pox virus, which left him scarred and caused him to have a very rough childhood being made fun of. As he grew larger, hate grew in his heart and he decided to treat the world as it had treated him. The slave driver is the only character who has a direct connection with the protagonist of the game, the Nameless. He was the one who tortured him in the dungeons and beat him mercilessly along with countless others. By day he would fight the slaves or make them fight themselves. By night he would beat them and whip them. After an epic fight with the Nameless, the slave driver lost his duel, screaming pitifully as he died. He was so hated that no one would resurrect him, nor pay a sorcerer to bring him back. He was a high-ranking servant of the Emperor who had the job of procuring as many slaves and gladiators for the games as possible, so you would think that he was of great value to Antares. It is not explained why the Emperor did not bring the slave driver back to life with his magic, but it can be assumed that at that point he was focused on his big plan of preparing an army of undead warriors to match upon Brander and did not have the time or attention to do so. Being the arrogant Emperor that he was, Antares also never thought he'd be stopped, and the slave driver had done his part at this point, so he was expendable. Daimyo Katsumodo was a storied general from the Draconian Church, who was instrumental in the Templar Church's rise to power. He would travel around the world to fight the best fighters he could find to test his skills even at an older age. He too, like the rest before him, was beaten but survived and went on to fight the Crusades. He won many great battles fighting for Dracondir, but ultimately died in the battle in Edengard, where he was killed by a phalanx charge from the Legion of Age. Fun fact about Daimyo Katsumodo is that he traveled to Earth through a portal in medieval Japan, where he found his signature armor that he uses throughout the series. Another fun fact about the Swords and Sandals series is that it does not take place in Earth. Instead, it takes place in a separate universe in a planet called Tritonia. However, the planet of Earth still exists in the Swords and Sandals universe. Archfiend Zeerzabahl was a mid-ranked demon prince from a plane of existence way beyond the mortal realm. Ambitious and calculating, this demon was the first to make contact with Emperor Antares, offering him a deal that would guarantee eternal life in return for Antares agreeing to help bring Zeerzabahl's master through the constellation mirror. This was one of the pivotal moments that would make Antares rise in power. The demon prince was eventually outgrown in power by Antares and forced to fight in the arena for the Emperor's amusement. After his defeat in Swords and Sandals 2, Archfiend Zeerzabahl returned to his own plane of existence, lesser in power but with a hunger for vengeance. He received such opportunity when war came to Brander and he agreed to fight for Gaiax and the Legion of Age in Swords and Sandals Crusader. He won many battles and caused havoc in the realm, which had terrible ramifications in the long run. However, he was defeated by the Emperor's Colossus, the Dusk Harlequin, and returned once more to his own realm through a portal. We would see others of his kind in future games, but Crusader is the last game that we've seen Archfiend Zeerzabahl in. The most powerful sorcerer and perhaps the most notorious entity in all of Brander is none other than Bhaargle. He has lived for centuries, evidently having discovered a way to remain alive for all these years. Being one of the original precursors that first stepped through the constellation mirror and populated the planet Tritonia 600 years ago, he possesses magical powers and technology long forgotten in the realms, and has meddled in the affairs of men for many years. His true motives are unknown. During the events of Swords and Sandals 2, he sneaked into the tournaments and fooled everyone that he is an arena champion so he could fight with the Nameless. He threw the fight so he could get close to the Nameless and tell him crucial information about how to stop Antares' evil plans. After that, he disappeared through a portal, and the next time we see him is in the Crusader War. This is one of the few times where he took a side in the battle of good versus evil, choosing to aid King Lionel during the culmination of the war. Years later, he established contact with the automatons after they landed on the planet and eventually went to space with them. After that, he appears in the epilogue of Swords and Sandals Immortals, offering the protagonist to go on an adventure with him to stop the malevolence once and for all. Bhaargle will return in future Swords and Sandals games. Archangel Sandalphon comes from another dimension. He shows up each year in tournaments to determine who the best warriors are for a mysterious event he refers to as the Great Battle. During the events of Swords and Sandals 2, demons start appearing on the behest of the Emperor, which prompts the Archangel to appear in the tournaments. Sandalphon fought the Nameless in order to guide him not to fall to the side of evil and to find his path. Being an Archangel, when killed he does not die but instead returns to his own realm, and that is exactly what happened after his loss in Swords and Sandals 2. After that, he gets summoned by King Lionel during Swords and Sandals Crusader, where he aids the Kingdom of Phaetor in the war against the Death Imperium. The next time he is seen is some 40 years later during the events of Swords and Sandals Immortals. He is sent to Tritonia to help stop the Starbound Gladiator from opening the Constellation Mirror, which would allow a dark being called the Malevolence to destroy the planet. I expect to see more of him in the upcoming Constellation Mirror game. He also has an older sister, a supremely powerful being called Archangel Arcturus. The Nameless Shadow is an avatar made by Bhaargle through magic in order to test the Nameless and help him defeat the evil in himself before facing the ultimate threat, the Emperor. In the original version of the game, he was created by Emperor Antares, but that has been retconned. Since it is created by magic, this character was never alive to begin with, so he does not have a history before or after this point, since he gets defeated and destroyed in the penultimate tournament in Swords and Sandals 2. Emperor Antares enslaved thousands to fight in the arena and resurrected their corpses for his undead army, which he would use to conquer Brandor. His plans would be undone by the Nameless Hero and Bhaargle at the end of Swords and Sandals 2, where all paths lead to a duel between the Emperor and the Nameless. The Emperor was defeated, however he could not die as he was immortal due to the dark pact he made with the Archfiend Zeerzabahl's master, the Malevolence. Bhaargle would create a spell that would separate Antares' undead army from the Emperor's mind control so they could not be used. Antares' story continues in the next game of the franchise, Swords and Sandals Crusader, where he gets resurrected and a war ensues in the continent of Brandor. After a big struggle and countless deaths, the Emperor is once again defeated, this time his essence trapped in a grail that is broken and the pieces split up and his body buried in Soul's Gateway. In the old lore, he appears in Swords and Sandals 3 Gladio Tratus, however that has been retconned, and in the new lore, that is just a simulacrum, which is basically a life hologram, created by the automatons, which means, according to the lore, he does not appear in Swords and Sandals 3. His next appearance is in Swords and Sandals 5, Grail of Antares, where the main characters race to assemble the broken pieces of the Grail. It is in this game that Antares' dark pact with the Malevolence is revealed to be a deal where he would have his necromancy magic amplified along with becoming immortal, in exchange for opening the Constellation Mirror and letting the Malevolence in Tritonia to consume the planet of all its life. He is defeated again, presumably for the last time. In Swords and Sandals Immortals, Bhaargle is revealed to have resurrected him, but this time bending Antares' will to his control since the Emperor was weakened from all his previous defeats. Bhaargle explains to the Great Sentinel, aka the protagonist of Immortals, that he and Antares need his help for a grand adventure to defeat the Malevolence once and for all. This is where Antares' story ends for now, but will be continued in future Swords and Sandals games, and hopefully we'll find out more about his backstory as well. There is 3 arena champions from the original Swords and Sandals 2 who are not included in this list because they have been retconned from appearing in the Reduxed version. The Maharaja Said is one of them, and he was replaced with Daughter of the Blades, who seems to have switched roles with him since she has his story now. It is not clear whether the Maharaja has been deleted from existence and replaced by the Daughter of the Blades, or if he's still his own separate character in the Swords and Sandals universe. Gaiax is still a prisoner in the arena in the updated lore as he was in the original game, but his Legion of Age breaks him out while the gladiatorial games are happening. Sir Belgrave is also present in the story of Swords and Sandals 2, however not as an arena champion but as a cameo side character who helps the protagonist to stop Emperor Antares. The lore is still being periodically updated and renewed by the creator of the series, which means plot points and character arcs may change over time. I have done my best to research what happened to all of these characters. The main sources I use are the Tome of Lore, the video games text, YouTube videos of Oliver Joyce talking about the lore, and the Discord server where many things have been explained either by Oliver Joyce himself or other knowledgeable members of the community. Most of the art I have shown in this video is made from very talented people from the Swords and Sandals Discord who were kind enough to allow me to use their drawings for this video. This is the official Discord of Whiskey Barrel Studios, the one-man company behind the Swords and Sandals series and other games alike, so feel free to join and have fun discussions with other Swords and Sandals enthusiasts. There will be future Swords and Sandals games happening, and the lore will continue.